If you're an empath, you've probably asked yourself a painful question. Why do narcissists always seem to find me? Is it just bad luck, or some kind of curse? Or could there be something deeper at play? Carl Jung believed that the people we attract into our lives are not random. They are mirrors of our own unconscious, pulling us into lessons we may not want, but desperately need in order to grow. An empath is someone who doesn't just notice the emotions of others, but absorbs them, almost like a sponge. When someone walks into a room filled with anxiety, you feel it in your own body. When someone close to you is hurting, you don't just see it. You carry their pain as if it were your own. On the surface, it might look like a gift, and in many ways it is, but it can also feel like a heavy burden. On the other side, there's the narcissist, outwardly confident, charismatic, often magnetic. They thrive on attention, admiration, and control. But Jung would say that beneath that polished surface, there is usually a wounded child, someone terrified of being unworthy, terrified of being abandoned. What they show the world is a mask, what Jung called the persona. What they hide from the world, and often even from themselves, is their own deep insecurity. Now put these two together, and something almost irresistible happens. The empath feels drawn to the narcissist's apparent strength and certainty. There's a feeling of recognition, maybe even a hope that they can help or heal this person. The narcissist, in turn, is pulled to the empath's endless well of compassion, validation, and attention. It looks like chemistry. It feels like fate. But what's really happening is projection. Jung taught that what we cannot face in ourselves, we project onto others. The empath, who often denies their own anger and their own power, unconsciously projects that strength onto the narcissist. The narcissist, who rejects their own vulnerability and need for love, projects that hidden part onto the empath. Each sees in the other what they have pushed into the shadows of their own psyche. And that's why this connection feels so powerful, but also why it can be so destructive. Because until we learn to see these projections for what they are, we remain trapped in them. Jung believed that every one of us carries a shadow. The shadow is made up of all the qualities we've learned to push away, to hide, or to deny. It's the anger we're not supposed to feel, the boundaries we were never taught to set, the needs we were told were too much. For an empath, the shadow often holds all the parts of the self that feel selfish or too strong. You learned early on that being gentle, giving, and accommodating made you loved and safe. So you kept those qualities on the surface while your power, your anger, and your ability to say no sank into the unconscious. The narcissist's shadow is the opposite. What they've buried is their softness, their tenderness, their deep longing for love. To them, those qualities feel weak, dangerous, even shameful. So they construct a persona of strength, superiority, and control. But beneath it, in the shadow, lives a fragile and frightened child. Now here's where the two collide. When an empath meets a narcissist, the unconscious immediately recognizes the missing pieces. The empath looks at the narcissist and sees the strength, the authority, the certainty that they themselves have repressed. And something deep inside whispers, "This is what you need." At the same time, the narcissist looks at the empath and sees the warmth, the unconditional love, the acceptance they can't find within themselves. And they think, "This is the person who will finally give me what I've been missing." It's as if two puzzle pieces lock into place. but it's not a perfect fit. It's a bond built on wounds, not on wholeness. The empath begins to give and give, pouring energy into the relationship while denying their own needs. The narcissist takes and takes, filling the void inside with the empath's devotion, but never truly facing their own pain. And over time, what first felt magnetic turns into a cycle of depletion for the empath and control for the narcissist. Jung would say that this isn't just a bad relationship dynamic. It's a psychological trap created by projection. The empath is seeing their own hidden strength in the narcissist, and the narcissist is seeing their own denied vulnerability in the empath. Both are chasing what they've lost in themselves, but trying to find it in the other. And because neither recognizes the projection, the cycle repeats again and again. This is why so many empaths say they always attract narcissists. It's not a coincidence. It's the unconscious drawing us back to the same mirror over and over until we finally realize what it's showing us. The narcissist is not simply a predator, and the empath is not simply a victim. They are two people caught in the dance of the shadow, and that dance will continue until one of them breaks the pattern. Jung believed that behind our personal struggles there are deeper universal patterns at work, what he called archetypes. Archetypes are like ancient stories living inside the human psyche. They appear in myths, fairy tales, dreams, and yes, in our relationships. When we look at the bond between an empath and a narcissist through this lens, we begin to see an old story playing itself out. The empath often embodies the archetype of the wounded healer. This is the figure who feels the pain of others so deeply because they carry their own unhealed wounds. They are drawn to help, to rescue, to heal, believing that if they can save the other, maybe they will finally find relief themselves. It's a noble archetype, but it's also a dangerous one because the healer forgets their own needs and becomes consumed by the suffering of those around them. The narcissist, on the other hand, often takes the role of the trickster or the tyrant. The trickster is charming, magnetic, even enchanting. They seduce, they confuse, they pull others into their web. The tyrant seeks control, dominance, and power. At their core, both are masks hiding a profound vulnerability, but to the empath, they appear as larger-than-life figures who demand attention and submission. Put these archetypes together, and it's no wonder the connection feels like destiny. The wounded healer meets the trickster, and a drama begins that is as old as human history. It's the story of light trying to save darkness, of innocence trying to redeem corruption, of love trying to heal what seems unhealable. We see this pattern not just in relationships, but in myths, legends, even religions. And Jung would say that if it feels bigger than you, it's because it is. It's the archetypal world moving through you. But here's the crucial part. Jung didn't believe we are doomed to live out these archetypes blindly. The whole purpose of individuation, the process of becoming whole, is to recognize when we're caught in these ancient patterns and to reclaim our power from them. The empath doesn't have to remain the wounded healer, endlessly pouring themselves out for others. They are being asked to step into a fuller archetype, the healer who has healed themselves, who helps from a place of strength rather than self-sacrifice. And the narcissist, though they may never take this path, also carries the potential to face their own shadow, to remove the mask of the tyrant and reconnect with the vulnerable self they abandoned long ago. Whether or not they ever do, that is not the empath's responsibility. What matters is that the empath begins to see the pattern for what it is and recognizes that it is not fate, but an invitation. Jung taught that the real task of our lives is individuation, becoming whole by integrating the parts of ourselves we've rejected. For the empath, this means learning to bring back the strength, the anger, the boundaries that were pushed into the shadow. And that's not easy because for most empaths, anger feels dangerous. Setting limits feels selfish. Saying no feels like abandonment. But this is exactly the inner work that transforms the pattern. Think of it like this. Every time you say yes, when you really want to say no, you abandon yourself a little bit more. And each time you do, you become more vulnerable to someone who is ready to take advantage of that abandonment. Jung would say that this is not just a personal mistake. It's the unconscious at work, repeating the lesson until you finally face it. So, how do you begin to break free? The first step is awareness. Start to notice when you are giving out of guilt or fear rather than true love. Ask yourself, am I helping this person because I genuinely want to, or because I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't? That one question can already shine a light on whether you're acting from compassion or from compulsion. The second step is boundaries. Jung reminded us that individuation is about becoming who you truly are, not who others expect you to be. For an empath, that means realizing that your worth is not defined by how much you give, but by who you are. A practical way to practice this is to start small. Say no to something minor, an invitation you don't want to accept, a request you don't have energy for. Feel the discomfort, but also feel the power in honoring yourself. Over time, this builds the muscle of self-respect. Third, you need to reclaim your shadow. Remember, the shadow is not only negative qualities, it also holds your hidden strengths. For the empath, that shadow often contains assertiveness, anger, and self-protection. Instead of seeing anger as dangerous, begin to see it as information. Anger tells you when a boundary is being crossed. It tells you when your needs are being ignored. You don't have to lash out or explode, but you do need to listen to what that anger is trying to say. Journaling about moments of anger, or even speaking them out loud in private, can begin to bring this energy back into consciousness. Another practical tool is what Jung called active imagination. The next time you feel drained or overwhelmed by someone's presence, close your eyes and imagine a boundary of light or energy around you. See yourself stepping back into your own space, separate from theirs. This might sound symbolic, but Jung knew that the unconscious speaks in symbols. And when we give it a new image, it can begin to change the way we experience reality. And then there is perhaps the hardest step, letting go of the illusion that you can save the narcissist. This is where many empaths stay stuck, because they see the hidden child inside the narcissist and believe that if they just love enough, give enough, sacrifice enough, they will finally heal them. But Jung would say, what you see in them is actually a reflection of what you have not yet healed in yourself. By turning that energy inward, by learning to care for the abandoned child within your own soul, you begin to free yourself from the need to fix others. This shift can feel radical. Imagine a situation where the narcissist is criticizing you or withdrawing love to control you. In the past, you might have bent over backwards to win them back. But with this new awareness, you pause. You recognize, this is their projection, not my truth. You take a breath, and instead of chasing, you choose yourself. In that moment, the entire dynamic changes. Over time, as you integrate these hidden parts of yourself, something beautiful happens. The same magnetism that once drew you to narcissists begins to fade. It's not that they stop existing, but that you no longer feel that irresistible pull. Because you've reclaimed your own strength, you no longer need to borrow it from someone else's mask. Because you've honored your own vulnerability, you no longer feel compelled to rescue it in another. And that is individuation in action. The empath is no longer the wounded healer, bleeding themselves dry to save others. They become the conscious healer, someone who can offer compassion without losing themselves, someone who can love without being consumed. This doesn't mean the journey is easy. There will still be temptations, still moments of doubt. But Jung would remind us that every encounter with the shadow, every difficult relationship is not a failure. It's a step toward wholeness. The narcissist, in this sense, is not just your tormentor. They are also your teacher. They show you exactly where you've abandoned yourself, and they give you the chance to come back home. So if you've ever wondered why you, as an empath, seem to attract narcissists, the deeper truth is this: your soul is asking you to grow, to step into your power, to reclaim your shadow, and to become whole. Once you see the pattern for what it is, you no longer have to repeat it. The mirror has served its purpose. And from that moment on, you are free to choose love that doesn't cost you yourself. So in the end, the question isn't really why do empaths attract narcissists? The question is, what is life trying to show you through this pattern? Jung would say that these encounters are not accidents. They are invitations to stop abandoning yourself, to face your shadow, and to grow into the wholeness that was always waiting for you. If this message resonated with you, remember, you're not alone on this journey. Many of us are walking the same path of learning to balance empathy with self-love. If you want to keep exploring Jung's wisdom and how it applies to modern life, make sure to subscribe to this channel. That way, you won't miss future videos where we dive even deeper into psychology, relationships, and the mysteries of the soul. And if you know someone who might need to hear this today, consider sharing it with them. Thank you for watching. Take care of your energy, and I'll see you in the next video.